Moving right along, we have our pedal CV for control voltage for modulating our sounds. We have our foot switch, which can be used to start and stop our sequencer or sustain notes. We have our left and right outputs, which can be connected to a home stereo or a mixer. The output from these two jacks can be used in stereo or mono. But if you decide to use mono, use only one jack. Do not use both. Next, we have our audio in for recording samples into the EPS. This jack can be used for either line level or microphone level signals. Finally, we have our headphone jack for plugging a pair of stereo headphones. Please note that audio output from the left to right outputs will not be disabled and you will still be able to hear them. All of those who jam at night in their bedroom studios, don't disturb your neighbor or your folks. Let's look at the front of our unit. As we look at the front panel, the first thing we see is our floppy disk drive for loading and saving operations. We have our 3 mode buttons, which enable us to access various functions of the EPS, such as saving and loading instruments, editing samples, editing sequences, or editing effects. More on this will be discussed later on in our tape. Directly next to the mode buttons are our 14-page buttons. Our 14-page buttons contain disk files, commands, and parameters that correspond to each of the 3 modes that I talked about earlier. Please note that all 14-page buttons are not active in all of the 3 modes. Certain modes will have more pages than the other 2. Directly next to our page button is our data entry slider. We have our data entry arrows and our yes/no buttons. With a combination of the 3, you enter input into the EPS depending on what mode you are in. Next to our data entry controls is our display panel. Our display panel is divided into 2 main sections: the indicator lights, which are in the top half of the window, and a 22-character alphanumeric display, which is at the bottom of the window. The indicator lights in the top half of the window tell us what mode we are in, what page we are on, or the status of the sequencer, just to name a few of the functions. The bottom half of our display enables us to see specific files, parameters, and commands. Under our display are our 8 instrument track buttons. These 8 buttons are used to select, deselect, and stack various instruments loaded in the internal memory of the EPS. There are 2 LEDs located atop each of the instrument buttons. The function of the top LED tells you that there is a sound loaded in this memory location. The function of the bottom LED lets you know that that particular instrument is selected. Each instrument location also doubles as a sequencer track. So when you are recording, editing, or mixing sequences and songs, you will use the instrument buttons to select the current track. To the right of the display panel is our Effect Select Bypass button. This acts as the master controlling switch for the built-in effects of the EPS 16 Plus. The playback rate and polyphony of your unit will change depending on the effect that you have selected. Some effects will allow you to play up to 20 notes, while other effects may only allow you 7. Please note that original EPS users will not have this function available to them.